If it hadn't been for Bernie Madoff, the most famous white-collar criminal in America right now would probably be Marc Drier. If that name's not ringing a bell, it's because Drier's $400 million Ponzi scheme was blown off the front pages by Madoff's arrest just a few days later. But the case is no less fascinating. The highly respected attorney who ran a big Park Avenue law firm was initially arrested in Toronto for impersonating an officer in a pension fund in what's been described as perhaps the most bizarre arrest in the history of white-collar crime. But unlike Bernie Madoff, Marc Drier agreed to talk to 60 Minutes last fall in his only television interview.
I thought if somebody would ever interview me in a program such as yours, it would be for something good I've done, not something humiliating I've done.
This isn't the way you wanted to be on 60 Minutes.
No.
Nor was this the way that Marc Drier wanted to make his final appearance in federal court as a defendant in his own fraud case. When we first interviewed him last year, he was a prisoner in his own penthouse with a GPS monitoring device on his ankle, detained by private jailers whose $70,000 monthly fee was being paid for by Drier's 88-year-old mother.
Yes.
With his assets frozen or confiscated by the court, all that remained of Drier's $40 million art collection were the hooks on the wall.
How did you end up becoming a crook?
I can't remember the moment in which I decided to do something that I knew was wrong. I had an ambition that I needed to feed. I think I fell into the trap of wanting to be more successful than I was.
But you were successful.
I was, but I really wanted to distinguish myself. I wanted to be as important as I thought I deserved to be.
With degrees from Yale and Harvard Law and the ego of a successful trial lawyer, Drier told friends he was going to become a billionaire. He started his own law firm that he said would revolutionize the business of law. He was going to hire the best attorneys, pay them top dollar, and keep all the profits for himself as the firm's only partner.
The idea for the law firm was very viable, but it needed much more money to get it off the ground than I anticipated, much more. So that wasn't very well thought out. I had a good idea, but a very bad business plan.
And the plan was about to get much worse. With his law firm a money pit and Drier tapped out, he began approaching hedge funds with a cockamamie scheme he thought might save his dream.
Drier told the hedge funds that he was representing a billionaire real estate developer who was looking to borrow hundreds of millions of dollars to embark on some new projects. The developer, Drier said, would issue short-term promissory notes guaranteeing interest rates of between 7 and 12%, well above market rates. And it seemed like a very good deal.
The only problem was that the real estate mogul who was supposed to be borrowing all this money, Sheldon Solo, didn't know anything about it. Nor did he know that Drier, his former lawyer, was fabricating financial information about his company and keeping the loan proceeds for himself.
So you convinced hedge funds to lend money ostensibly to Mr. Solo, your former client, and in fact the money was going to you.
Yes.
So you came up with phony financial statements, phony audits, forged documents for Mr. Solo's company?
Yes.
How'd you do all that? How'd you get that stuff?
Well, I invented it.
You invented it. I mean, stationery?
Yes.
From the audit firms? How did you get that?
I was able to obtain their letterhead from either from correspondence that I had received from them or perhaps from the internet, I don't recall.
What was your biggest deal?
$100 million.
Somebody just gave you $100 million and never bothered to check with your supposed alleged client to make sure that this was on the up and up?
Right. But I don't know, I guess I heard a long time ago, too, that the more money you look for, the fewer questions people ask sometimes.
The obvious flaw in Drier's scheme was that he would eventually have to pay off all the promissory notes plus interest if he wanted to stay out of jail. And in the end, the only way he could do it was by selling more notes to new investors.
So you were digging yourself into a hole?
You know, very much so. You know, you start with something that you think is manageable and small. You know it's wrong, but you think you can fix it, and you can't get out of it. It became quicksand. I had to keep meeting obligations that grew bigger and bigger. Clearly, all along the way, if there was a way for me to have gotten out of it, I would have done it.
Drier says he used most of the $400 million he stole to expand his law firm and to finance a lifestyle designed to create the illusion that he already was a billionaire. There was the $11 million oceanfront compound in the Hamptons, an art collection that included a Picasso, 3 Matisses, and 12 Warhols. And then there was the 120-foot yacht Seascape with a full-time crew of 10, all mortgaged to the hilt.
How much did you pay for the yacht?
$18 million.
And for this apartment?
$10.5 million.
You enjoyed the good life?
I did. It was clear to me that the more you showed people you didn't need money, the easier it was to attract money. So having the trappings of success was a very important part of the plan.
To raise his profile, Drier co-hosted annual charity events with former New York Giants star Michael Strahan that attracted top-name performers like Diana Ross, John Bon Jovi, and Alicia Keys. And then there were the extravagant office parties where Drier himself sometimes performed.
In this town, you have to really be something. You know, you don't succeed quietly in this town, perhaps. And I think I succumbed to that.
By 2007, Drier LLP occupied 10 floors of a Park Avenue building, employed more than 250 lawyers around the country with high-profile clients like Bill Cosby, Andy Pettit, Maria Sharapova, and Justin Timberlake. What no one but Marc Drier knew was that the rents, the salaries, and the expenses were all being subsidized by fraud.
I recognized in the last couple of years that what I saw as a $20 million mistake had grown into a mistake of a few $100 million. And then I did some increasingly irrational things because I wasn't thinking clearly.
Crazy things?
Yeah.
Desperate?
Yeah.
As the financial crisis set in, Drier was holding hundreds of millions of dollars in loans that were about to come due, and everyone wanted their money back. When Drier was a month late on a $100 million loan payment, the hedge fund that was owed the money demanded a face-to-face meeting with executives at Sheldon Solo's real estate operations here at his office building in New York.
With reality